Welcome to your dose of Wowness. Over the last few days of this Explainer series, we've been deep in the shadows. Covert programs, retracted press releases, military bases completely locked down in secrecy. But today, we're completely flipping the script. We are plunging headfirst into a 13-month period where a modern, heavily armed NATO nation experienced a massive, undeniable anomaly right there in its skies. And here's the kicker. They didn't hide it. They didn't bury the files in some basement. They pointed a massive spotlight directly at it.
For 3 days in this arc, we have watched the exact same pattern repeat. Something is seen, it's reported, it's documented, and then the government denies it. They classify it, or they send a general out to hold up some tinfoil and call it a weather balloon. The Pentagon, Rendlesham Forest, Roswell, deny, minimize, suppress. But today's case is totally different. In 1989, something started appearing over Belgium. Thousands of people saw it. I'm talking police officers, soldiers, air traffic controllers. The Belgian Air Force actually scrambled fighter jets, and the pilots chased this thing on radar. The object straight up outran the F-16s, with flight characteristics that the Air Force publicly admitted exceeded any known aerospace technology on Earth. And then, the Belgian government did something no government in this arc has done so far. They called a press conference. They played the radar tapes for 40 journalists. And the chief of Air Force operations went on the record and said, "We investigated every single conventional explanation, and we have no answer." Not, "It was a weather balloon." Not, "It was a highly classified drone." Not, "The witnesses were hallucinating." We have no answer. That is what actual governmental honesty about UAP looks like. And honestly, it's way more unsettling than any cover-up.
Section 1. Thousands see the triangle. Okay, let's ground ourselves in November 1989. Belgium is a densely populated European country. It's roughly the size of Maryland. It is packed end-to-end with people, highways, and military bases. There are absolutely no vast, empty deserts here. Nowhere for a massive, low-flying object to just hide. If something is taking up airspace, people are going to see it. And man, did they ever.
2,600. That is not some rough back-of-the-napkin estimate of civilian eyewitnesses. That is the exact number of formal, written reports meticulously collected by the Belgian Gendarmerie. That's their national federal police force. Picture this for a second. It's 2 a.m. You're on a dark rural highway. Two veteran officers in a patrol car pull over. The night is completely still, but right above the tree line, there's a massive, heavy shape that is literally physically blocking out the stars. These weren't internet rumors or, fragmented campfire stories. These were highly structured, real-time data points logged by professional law enforcement officers who were staring at this phenomenon right through their own windshields. Just look at the chilling uniformity of this data across 13 entire months. Every single province in the country logged the exact same description. Large, dark, triangular or maybe chevron-shaped, 3 bright white or amber lights at the corners, a central red beam glowing underneath, and moving at a low altitude, completely silent. You had school teachers, farmers, and trained cops who had zero connection to each other, all staring up at the exact same impossible craft. It started in the east, near Eupen, and just systematically hunted its way westward. This was not some media contagion, it was a physical reality tracking right across the map. Section 2. F-16s chasing an impossible target. All right, we're fast-forwarding the timeline to March 30, 1990. I want you to put yourself directly into the claustrophobic cockpit of a Belgian Air Force F-16 Fighting Falcon. You are strapped in tight. You are a highly trained NATO pilot flying a state-of-the-art interceptor, and you are about to run into something that absolutely shatters the laws of physics.
Track this timeline with me. Just before midnight, deep inside 2 totally independent ground radar stations, Glance and Semmerzake, operators simultaneously paint an anomalous target on their screens. At 23:56, the scramble order hits Petit-Rechain Air Base. Jet fuel, roaring engines, 2 F-16s punch into the night sky, briefed to intercept and identify whatever this thing is. By 005, the pilots' onboard radars ping. They get a hard airborne lock. Ground control and the fighter jets are now staring at the exact same unknown target. Now, this is where human comprehension just fractures. The exact second those F-16s achieve that radar lock, the target reacts. It drops from an altitude of 3,000 meters down to 1,500 meters, and it executes this drop in less than 2 seconds. Think about that. That is not an aerodynamic descent. That is a free-fall plunge executed with terrifying mechanical precision, and it was recorded directly onto the F-16's digital flight data recorders.
Simultaneously, the object accelerates from 280 kilometers per hour to over 1,800 kilometers per hour. That sudden, violent burst of speed generates approximately 40 Gs of force. Let me be absolutely crystal clear about what that number actually means in the real world. At 40 Gs, the structural integrity of any known aircraft from that era would violently tear itself apart. Titanium and steel would just shear. More importantly, any biological human pilot inside, instantly killed. The G-force would literally rip the blood right out of their brain.
So, how do you outrun an F-16? Well, you simply leave. The F-16 pilots reported a profound, chilling sense of disorientation. Remember, these guys are elite hunters in the sky. They heard the tone of a confirmed lock, and then they watched their target just vanish. It moved faster than their cutting-edge computer systems could even track, jumping to a position their jets could never physically reach. 3 separate times that night they locked on, and 3 separate times the object shattered the lock using physics that shouldn't exist.
Section 3. The Petit-Rechain photo debate. Okay, we need to slow the tempo down slightly here. Because whenever there's an anomaly this massive, the whole world demands a picture, right? Well, the visual evidence that defined this event globally is fiercely contested. And to be fair, we have to look at both sides of this impartially.
In April 1990, an anonymous photograph surfaced, the famous Petit-Rechain photo. It showed exactly what thousands of witnesses had described: a dark triangle, 3 corner lights, a glowing center. Contemporary analysts authenticated it back then, and it became an iconic piece of UAP history. But jump forward to 2011, and a man named Patrick Marshall steps forward. He claimed he faked the entire thing using a piece of painted styrofoam and a flashlight. Now, some researchers accept his confession completely. Case closed. But others point out that the lighting and shadow physics in the original image completely contradict what a small foam model would look like. So, there's immense intellectual tension around this one image. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway from all of this. It ultimately doesn't matter. The integrity of the Belgian UFO Wave does not rest on a single piece of photographic paper. Even if we completely assume the Petit-Rechain image is 100% painted styrofoam, look at the unassailable foundation left behind. You still have 2,600 formal police reports. You have independent NATO ground radars. You have digital flight data proving 40G maneuvers. And you have a formal, completely unprecedented collaboration between the Belgian Air Force and SOBeeps, a civilian scientific organization. Hard, military-grade radar data is completely immune to a styrofoam hoax.
Section 4. Total transparency, zero answers. This brings us to the emotional climax of this explainer. What do you actually do when you're a government holding absolute, verified proof of an impossible craft flying around in your airspace? On July 11, 1990, the Belgian government made a historic choice. They opened the doors.
Major General Wilfried de Brouwer, the chief of operations for the Belgian Air Force, stood up in front of over 40 international journalists in Brussels. He didn't hide behind classification protocols. He didn't mock the witnesses or make a joke out of it. He actually played the F-16 radar tapes for the press. He put the impossible flight data up on the screen, and with profound institutional humility, he delivered the quote you're seeing right now. They investigated everything: stealth planes, weather anomalies, experimental foreign tech, and they came up empty. They had zero answers.
This moment is monumental because it absolutely demolishes the core excuse that's been used for decades to justify American UAP secrecy. You know the standard line, right? The public can't handle it. There'll be mass panic. Institutions will collapse overnight. But Belgium actually tested that theory in real time. They told the unvarnished truth, and guess what? The public did not panic. Society kept right on functioning. The NATO alliance held firm. By just being honest, the Belgian government didn't lose control. They gained immense, unshakable credibility.
But here is the chilling reality of that transparency. By eliminating every comfortable escape route, proving beyond a doubt that it wasn't a radar glitch or a balloon or mass hysteria, the mystery actually deepened. When a modern military hands over all its data, partners with scientists, holds global press conferences, and still cannot explain what its own fighter pilots were chasing, the mystery has nowhere left to hide. Transparency didn't solve the puzzle. It confirmed the puzzle is terrifyingly real.
Major General de Brouwer is still alive. He's in his 80s. He has never changed his account, never retracted his press conference statements, and never backed away from the conclusion his investigation reached. He said they had no explanation then, and he still says it now. The Belgian wave ended in 1991. The sightings simply stopped, as suddenly and inexplicably as they had started. No final dramatic incident, no neat resolution, no explanation for why they arrived, and no explanation for why they left. But the radar tapes They're still sitting in the Belgian Air Force archive. The 2,600 Gendarmerie witness reports are preserved in the national records. The massive SOBeeps investigation volumes are still on library shelves in Brussels. The mystery is fully documented and fully open. Tomorrow we close this arc with something personal. Edgar Mitchell, Day 55. See you there.